Wesley, and welcome back. If you've seen some of these videos before, we're glad to have you back. And if this is your first one, welcome. So I have been in the financial services industry over 25 years. I've had over 2,500 individual 30-minute consultations. I've done several hundred webinars. And one of the key questions that's always presented is, how do you get started? If I'm saving for my child's college education, if I'm 29, if I'm saving to build a house, if I'm saving to buy a car, what's the most important one thing I would suggest as a person in this industry? And I've been a financial advisor, I've been a bank branch manager, I've been a regional investor education manager, I've taught business at the university level, and bar none, the most important single thing you can do in terms of your finances, if you're trying to put something aside and build, is having a budget. That's it. Create a budget. And inside of there's some key things we're going to talk about in terms of how you do that. But here's the philosophy. Create a budget, and with that budget, live within your means. That's it. Now, what we found is a large percentage of Americans spend more than they make. So how do you do that? You make $75,000, but you spend $83,000. Well, they're putting things on credit cards and extending their actual income. And it's really not their income, they're extending their actual debt. So the number one tip is, one, establish a budget. So let's just walk through it. So what is a budget? A budget is a spending plan. So if you were like me, you were told, okay, when you get paid, you want to pay your bills. And you should, but here's what you should do first. Let's say you get paid, you bring home $5,000. Take 10% of that off the top. That goes to your emergency savings. And by the way, 41% of all Americans can't put their hands on $1,000 if they had a financial emergency. And that number came out this month. If 41% of all Americans can't put aside $1,000 or don't have $1,000 in a financial emergency, that's probably a function of what I'm talking about. Imagine getting paid and making it a point to pay yourself first. So back to our example. You get direct deposited into your checking account $5,000 in a month. You take 500 of that, 10% off the top, and then you build the budget around the 4,500. That's the amount you have to spend. Not more credit, can't spend over it, can't take from the emergency fund. That's the amount of money you have available to spend. Okay, so I've got the 4,500. I'm going to craft a budget. First, I know my income. I've got 4,500. I don't have 5,000. I have 4,500. Then I'm going to look at my expenses, and there are three categories of expenses. First, my fixed expenses. Those are the amounts I pay every month, a regular basis, same amount, like the rent or the house note, insurance, car note, things like that, where you know it's that amount of money. Okay, that's fixed expenses. We normally can't massage that much. That's that number. Then we look at our variable expenses. Variable expenses are things like food. We all have to eat, but I can do Uber Eats or DoorDash and spend $1,500 in a month. Or I can do a combination of Safeway, Costco, and maybe some DoorDash, and maybe spend $600 in a month. I'm still eating, but it's how I use that money. And so variable means I can adjust it up or adjust it down. Okay? So all of our variable expenses, we want to comb through our budget and say, okay, should we be paying this amount of money? And say, if I need to save something, can I just modify my variable a little? Meaning, instead of ordering DoorDash 5 times a week, maybe I order it 3 times a week. And I save that $50 a week. That's $200 a month. And I can take that and throw that at something like the child's 529 or the credit card debt, or continue to increase my emergency fund. Okay, so that's the second factor, variable expenses. Again, we're talking about how do we build our budget. We're looking at our income, and then we've taken our emergency savings off the top, and then we talk about what is our fixed expense, and then we talk about our variable expenses and see if we can massage that at all, and then we look at irregular expenses. Now, irregular expenses are the things that don't happen every month or every quarter, but they happen every year. Christmas, anniversaries, birthdays, DMV, right? You know every year you're going to have to pay that amount of money. So the idea with irregular expenses is, can we set something aside on a regular basis to make sure when that financial challenge happens, we don't have to put it on the credit card? In 2019, the average American put $1,300 on their credit card for Christmas, and it took 4.5 months for the average person to pay that off. So if we can include irregular expenses in our budget, it sort of looks like this. You have DMV, $150 every October. And so you set aside $10, maybe $12 a month for that expense. You have Christmas every year. You set aside, I don't know, $50 a month for that. You have anniversary every year, right? So you build that number in terms of your budget. So when that month comes and that thing happens, you already have the money. So that's the story in terms of budget. And now some suggestions around that. Some people can do it old school and just write it on a piece of paper. Some people use Excel or Quicken, right? So they have some spreadsheet. A lot of folks are beginning to use these software apps like Mint or Nerd Wallet or Fudget or Wallet, right? There are various ones out there. It really doesn't matter. What matters is whatever works best for you. If you write it on paper, that's great. But writing it on paper doesn't really give you the real-time look, and you have to really stay on top of it every day for every expense. So you can have a wallet app that does this. So imagine you've hooked up your Visa, you've hooked up your Citibank, you've hooked up your MasterCard to it. Every time you do a transaction, your bank accounts, everything, you get a real-time look. So you know, because your direct deposit just came in, what your cash situation looks like by just pulling up the app. Also, you can program them to say, let's say we're spending $1,200 a month on food. And let's say for a family of 3, it should be, let's say $900. So I can program into my app saying my goal is to spend 900 or 1,000. And then what I can do at any point in time, pull it up and look and say, hey, I'm halfway through the month and I've spent $450. So I'm sort of on pace. Or I'm halfway through the month and I've spent $600. So I'm ahead of pace. And that tells me I need to make some adjustments. So I can real time look at the money I'm spending. And that's important because it's hard to know what you've spent if you're not tracking it. And spending is sort of insidious. It sort of sneaks up on us. We stop at a gas station, we go in, and all of a sudden we come out after buying gas with chips and a Coke, right? That's $2 or $3 that we don't really count as money being spent, but it's money being spent. Okay, so that's sort of the overview of budget. And my big suggestion is 1, begin to attack this and look at it. 2, pay yourself first. Pull 10% of whatever gets deposited into your bank account off the top. And by the way, when you pull it off the top, I would put it somewhere else. So I'm a big fan of an online bank account because it gives you a higher interest rate. So you can go to bankrate.com and it lists all the online FDIC insured highest interest bank accounts. Your corner bank right now pays you 0.1%. Online, and these are great. I mean, there's Capital One, there's Discover, there's Allied, so the big boys, right? The real names. I'm not going to go to Larry's bank online, right? So these are real banks online, FDIC insured. And you know the FDIC is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And literally, the banks pay an insurance premium to ensure that if something happens and they go belly up, you and I get our money back. Okay, so I definitely want to make sure if I'm going online that it's an FDIC insured place. So they're paying 0.5 and 0.6% versus my bank or corner bank, any corner bank that pays 0.1%. And you're losing money both ways. You can't make money in a bank account. It's mathematically impossible. Inflation is 2%. So if you're getting 0.5, you're still losing 1.5 in purchasing power. But that's not as much as losing 1.9 if you're in a 0.1% bank account. So banks are a place to save money, keep money, but you can't make money. It's mathematically impossible. If inflation's 2% and I'm only getting 0.5, I'm losing money. But at least it's there and it's safe. In subsequent videos, we're going to talk about investing to make sure we're trying to make more money than inflation. So we're actually making money and making more money than inflation in taxes. So that's where the stock market comes in. That's where the real estate market comes in. But that's not where banking comes in. Banking makes money for banks, but it doesn't make money for the individuals who put the money in the bank. It's just a place to save your money. It's better than putting it in your drawer, only by a little bit. Okay, so we just talked about budget. Again, it's job 1. Pay yourself first. Use the software app or whatever works best for you. Consider the fixed expenses, the variable expenses, and the irregular expenses. Develop some kind of program on a regular basis that allows you to do it. And separate the money, the emergency funds, from the other things. and see if you can get to the point of having, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 months of emergency funds set aside. So I have been William Wesley. This is our budget seminar through full life balance financial coaching. And hopefully we've shared something with you that makes sense for you and your family. And if it does, subscribe. And subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends and family. And also put comments down there. Tell us what you think. Tell us some of the challenges you're having. Tell us some of the successes you're having. And as always, we hope you be well, work smart, have fun, and live better every day.